Hey everyone, welcome back to 4J Music. In the last video, we talked about the note names on the keyboard, how to build a major scale, and also we introduced some concepts about the whole step and half steps. Hopefully by now you're able to identify notes very quickly. And if you can't go, that's a D, that's a B flat, F sharp, G, and have that kind of fluency, you're not ready to go on. I want to go ahead and talk about something else before we get into the actual chordal parts of the video. There's a rule of thumb I forgot to mention. Whenever you're building a scale, let's say you start on a D, and you're going from D, E, F sharp. Why didn't we call that a G flat? Because that we talked about in harmonics how notes can have two names, right? So a good rule of thumb is you want to have one of every letter name in the scale. So you'd go D, E, F sharp, not G flat, because then the next note would be a G, and you've already used G. You can't have two of the same letter names, and so that's a good rule of thumb. Same thing for the F scale, going F, G, A, then B flat, not A sharp, because you've already had an A pitch in there. So just keep that in mind as you're doing your note names and just practicing your different scales. Also, there are some note names like we talked about the enharmonics. We commonly use B flat more than we do A sharp. And so this is coming through the lens of a band director, and we like using flat keys because that works well for band instruments. But maybe you speak to other people that are more on the string side of things, and they might like some more of the sharp keys more. But typically I see the flat keys listed more often for your either C sharp or D flat. I see D flat more often. So just be prepared to kind of shift gears depending on where you are. Today we're going to talk about chords, how to build them, and we're using diatonic chords. When I use the term diatonic, I'm referring to notes that belong to the key. So if we're in the key of C, we're not going to be using notes that are outside of that scale family, that family of notes. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start off in the key of C, and hopefully using that whole half formula from last time, you know that this is our C. We go up to D for the next whole step, half to F, G, A, B, C. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, then you need to go back and watch that other video because you're not ready to go on. Now we're going to go ahead and play a C, the tonic, whatever you want to call it. We're going to play that note, skip the D, which would be the second note in the scale, play the third, skip the F would be the fourth one in the scale, and then play the G. That is our C chord. That is our tonic chord, and it's got harmony and everything on that. So we can do the same thing and start on the second scale degree, skip a note, the next note in the scale, which would be an E, go to the F, skip the G, which would be the next note in the scale, and play an A, D, F, A. That's another chord that we use in the key of C. We do the same thing for an E, skip the F, which would be the next note in the scale, go to G, skip the A, there's your B right there. That is another chord, the E minor chord actually, that we play sometimes in the key of C. Here is an F. We're starting on the fourth scale degree, skipping the G, going to A, skipping the B, playing a C as well. There's our F chord, F major chord. And we're going to talk about what makes a major and minor later on. But for now, just know that that's an F major chord. Now we're going to start build a chord on the fifth scale degree, the G. All right, so here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fifth scale degree, skip the next note, go to the seventh scale degree or the B, then skip the C, and then add the D in there. All right, that is a G chord. We're going to go to A, skip the B, add the C, skip the D, add an E. There's our A minor chord, okay? The B is a little funky, the number 7. It's not a very common chord that we use, but I'm going to go and show you what that looks like. We're going to go B, skip the C, go to D, skip the E, and F. It sounds a little bit odd. We haven't had a chord that sounds like that, and so we'll explain why later on. But that's all of the diatonic chords that we would have in a regular major scale, okay? Building a chord on each one of these notes, and that's how we do that. Now, because we were in the key of C, we didn't really use any of the black keys. And so I want to show you what that looks like, but now we're going to do that a little bit quicker, and we're going to go to a different key. All right, we're going to try this in E now. So E, our scale is E. There's our whole step to F sharp, whole step to G sharp, half step to A, whole step to B, whole step to C sharp, whole step to D sharp, and then half step back to E, okay? So our one, our tonic, our home tone, whatever you want to call it, is E. We're going to skip the second note in the scale, add the G sharp, skip the fourth note, add the B. Those are our notes right there, E, G sharp, B. That's our one chord. Now we're going to go to the second scale degree, F sharp. We're going to skip the G sharp, add an A, skip the B, add a C sharp. That is our 2 chord, all right? Now we're going to go to G sharp, skip the A, go to the B, skip the C sharp, and then add the D sharp. There is our 3 chord, the chord built on the 3rd scale degree, all right? Now we're going to go to the 4th scale degree, A, all right? And we're going to skip the B, there's your C sharp, skip the D sharp, and we're going to go to the E, all right? There is our 4 chord, okay? Now we're going to go to the 5th scale degree, which is B, skip the C sharp, go to the D sharp, skip the E, go to the F sharp. There's our 5 chord, okay? Now we're going to go to the 6th scale degree, C sharp, skip the D sharp. There's our E, the second note in the chord, and then skip the F sharp. We're going to go to G sharp. There's our 6th chord, okay? I'm going to go ahead and show you this one as well, even though it's not very common. There's our 7th scale degree, D sharp. We're going to skip the E, go to the F sharp, skip the G sharp, and add the A. Again, that very uncommon diminished chord that we'll talk about next time, what makes a diminished chord. All right, and those are our diatonic chords in the key of E. All right, those are all the chords that we use typically in CCM, contemporary Christian music. And there are some of the chords you may add later on, but for the most part, if you can play those chords, you can play so many songs. All right, well, there you have it. That's how you build chords, diatonic chords in any key, okay? Now, you can hopefully see why I made such an emphasis about having fluency on the note names, and then how to make a major scale. Because if you're having trouble identifying notes on the keyboard, or really still struggling to count the whole whole half formula there, when you start adding 2 more notes to that to build your triad, that becomes a little bit more cumbersome. So you have to have that fluency. The other thing I would say is that there are certain keys that I would learn first, because if I'm serving in a church where you have young musicians and you have people that are maybe playing string instruments, I would gravitate more towards the sharp keys like G, D, A, E. Some of those keys, maybe even C would be a good one as well. If I'm serving at a church that maybe you have some wind instruments like flutes, trumpets, things like that, then I would gravitate more towards the flat keys, your B flats, your E flats, your A flats, things like that. And so that is going to be able to put you in a better position to help those people, because it's a little bit trickier for you to be able to change keys on a trumpet or on a guitar if you're not using a capo, for example. I think it's a little easier for the keyboards to be able to adjust to a different key. Anyway, that's my suggestion to you. I hope that this helps you out. In the next video, we're going to talk about how to get some more comfort going from one chord to the other. If you notice, as we were doing those different chords and different keys, there's some notes that kept repeating, right? Whenever I was playing, for example, in C, I went C, E, G for my one chord. And when I went to F, I went F, A, C. Well, the C is a constant note. It repeats, it sustains from the one chord to the 4 chord. So having your hand, keep at least one note the same when you're going from that C to that F chord will help you be smoother as you transition from one chord to the other. So hope this helps. Keep trucking along, and we'll see you the next time, all right? Bye-bye.